We're in the final segment of the platform here today and speaking with economist Dr. Robert P. Murphy. And I mentioned at the break the price of oil. Several months ago, at the beginning of 2009, went up extremely high, over $100 a barrel. And we wonder what will happen in the economy of America and the world if we now see the price of oil going up again, and if it reaches to the height that it did at the beginning of 2009. What would be the impact on the global economy, having regard to the fact that the world is in recession?
Well, certainly, if oil got up to the heights, I think the highest it was about like 145 in that range last summer. Obviously, if we saw that again, and that was back, when the recession still wasn't fairly severe at that point. People were thinking it wasn't going to be a bad recession at that point. So yeah, if that were to happen again, it would be pretty devastating, I think. I mean, in terms of, just to give you a quick example, the automobile industry, which is already being battered, people aren't wanting to buy more cars. If oil shoots up again, people are going to cut back on driving even more. They're not going to buy cars as much. So
you think the world will go into depression?
I don't think that particular cause alone would do it. I mean, my concern about the overall outlook is all the governments intervening in their economy so much more heavily. But it's certainly true that rising oil prices, I think, would be another blow to a world economy that's already on its knees.
A major blow.
Major blow.
To the world economy.
What about food? Because food is tied to energy. With this industrial system of agriculture. How do you see that in this mix?
Well, in terms of, let's say, like 3 to 5 years out, I do think oil and other commodities and also staples, wheat and so forth, I think they're going to have big price increases because of all this inflation that the Federal Reserve has pumped into the system. But I think ultimately governments are going to keep wanting to spend money, and they can't raise taxes anymore because the economy is so awful. And so I think they're basically going to turn to their central banks to print up money, to put it crudely. So I think that you're going to see, in that sort of environment where the economy's bad, what do people flock to? They flock to commodities like gold and silver and things that are pretty, you always need oil, you always need fuel and food. So I think people will flock to those, and you'll see big price increases, which makes the average person who's on a fixed income, they're just going to be devastated.
Do you think that the average citizen of the world appreciates the fact that there is this crisis? I mean, that we're teetering on a very, very difficult time?
Well, I'm not sure in terms of around the world, but I think in the United States, at least, the sentiment is a lot of people are very hopeful that because the new president came in, he's very charismatic, he gives wonderful speeches, and he has this bold new plan, and people do trust him. And so I think a lot of people are hoping that, okay, maybe we're finally over this. So I, of course, don't think that, but I think most people hope that the worst is over.
Well, let me ask you, do you think that President Obama, Ben Bernanke, and Tim Geithner, do you think that they have the wherewithal, what it takes to reverse what is happening and to...
Well, I don't... In terms of what they've been doing so far, no, in my opinion, they're doing the wrong thing.
Now, they're doing the wrong thing.
Right, but the real question, the test for Bernanke...
You would say that they should do nothing.
Well, not even that they should
just stand still and just let this thing play out. That is what President Obama, Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and Tim Geithner should do. Just do nothing.
Or even better, the government should cut its own spending and then cut taxes so people can get more.
But in terms of regulation, just leave it alone. No regulations at all.
Right. I don't think that these new wave of regulations is going to make things better. I think that that's not going to happen. That people are going to get a false sense of security.
But why would you need then a Federal Reserve if you should do nothing?
Right. I don't think we should have a Federal Reserve.
You don't think we should have, I see. Boy, that is an interesting one. You shouldn't have a Federal Reserve at all.
Right. Cause
Well, that is like saying, like in the Bahamas, we shouldn't have a central bank.
right. I don't.
You don't need a central bank in the Bahamas.
Right.
A free for all. Just let everybody do what they want to do. Nobody is there to regulate interest rates or nothing, and nobody is there to regulate the banks. Just let banks charge whatever interest rate they want to charge, and you have usury in the society. That's what you want.
Well, it's not that I want usury, but I don't think
Well,
it's
that's what
helpful.
happened if you wouldn't have a central bank or a Federal Reserve, because there will be nobody there to regulate the banks. Nobody, no Federal Reserve, you say, no central bank of the Bahamas or any central bank anywhere in the world, because you believe that capitalism should be allowed to, everybody should do what they want to do, a free for all. Yes? And so if you do not have central banks or you do not have a Federal Reserve, you would have usury. People would be overcharging other people. No regulations at all.
I guess it depends what you mean by overcharge. But
Well, that's
you don't.
usury.
Well, but